I'm Joe Rudi, and we moved to Baker in, I believe, about 1975, right in that area, 76. I had been playing baseball in Oakland, and we ended up going through free agency. It was actually after the 76 season. We had bought a home in LA. We had our children. We didn't want to raise them in Southern California. And I had been coming up to Northeast Oregon hunting with Harmon Killebrew, who lived down in the Ontario area. Had a chance to meet Mike Nelson and Dave Bobo, who came down to go hunting with us while we were there with Harmon. And Mike and I became very close friends, and went up to visit him several times, and ended up sort of falling in love with Baker and brought my precious wife.
I'm Sharon Rudi, born and raised in Modesto, California. Joe was too. And we were high school sweethearts. I was a junior when I just caught my eye, and the rest is history. And so did the minor leagues and all of the trials and tribulations of that, and moving around. And then we decided when Joe went to the Angels not to raise our children in Southern California or even in California at all anymore. It had changed so much. Joe asked, he says, why don't you come up to Baker City and see what you think? I fell in love with it in January. And some cowboy behind us in the restaurant says, lady, if you love it in January, you're going to love it the rest of the time. So
somehow I just always enjoyed hitting things, whether it was picking up a stick and hitting rocks or old baseball bats and hitting rocks. And I was very fortunate to grow pretty fast. I was almost 6 feet tall by the time I was 12. And so baseball was just one of those things came naturally. Good Lord blessed me with the ability for the hand and eye coordination to be able to hit the baseball. And I was very blessed to move to Modesto, where I met Sharon, of course, but I had a baseball coach named Jerry Streeter, who had just retired from playing professional baseball. And he was by far the best coach I ever had. Really helped me and made me play shortstop through high school, because that's where the most action and you learn most about the game. Telling me that, eventually if you do go pro, you're going to end up in the outfield, which is where I did end up at left field. And so that, he had a huge influence on me on doing that. It just seemed like a natural, I think even in my 8th grade yearbook, I put in there that I wanted to be a professional baseball player.
I was an only child, and I really wanted to have a big family. So when I saw Joe and he liked me, that's all I wanted to do, is be the best wife I could, just support him in whatever way. We had a backup plan B, because my dad was quite a sports fan, and he said, boy, you're going to live like gypsies. You better have a plan B if it doesn't work out. It's about 1 in a billion if he ever makes it. So I always prepared for that. We thought we could work for the city of Modesto if we didn't make it in baseball. So I did go to business college, and anyway, we had it all figured out. The hardest part, I think, was the travel, the loneliness. And then when we finished up, and then we had to come home. And so it was me and another wife and her brand new baby, driving all the way back to California by ourselves.
Yeah, because we got called up to Kansas City at the end of the season. So I finished the last month of the season back up in Kansas City, and they had to drive back to California together.
So we always had this over our head that don't get too comfortable where you are, because you have a phone call in the middle of the night, you got to be on the next plane, the guys.
Well, baseball is a very, you got to be lucky in a lot of ways besides being physically gifted enough to get there. And I think when I talk to these kids and stuff that are trying to play pro ball even now, I tell them, hey, even if you make it to the big leagues, you're going to be in your mid-30s if you get to play a long time. And, I was 36, 37 when I retired. And so I've been out of the game for over 40 years. And that's what I try to impress upon these young guys that I talk to, is that, hey, you got to find something else you really enjoy doing. Don't just sit around and do nothing in these winters now. Start looking forward and what you want to try to do, because it is a big adjustment when you get out of the game, because you've started playing these games at a very early age, and it's been the center of your universe for all this time. Boy, as far as baseball, I don't know, how I could have done much different. We, back in the day when I first signed, we had very little control of where we played. There was no such thing as free agency. I mean, literally, guys in the major leagues, back in the 50s and 60s, they could win the Triple Crown as a hitter, or a pitcher could win 20 or 30 ball games, and the owner didn't want to pay you. They could cut your salary and tell you, if you don't like it, go pump gas. And that's really what you had no options. And it was a different game in those days. And so we really didn't have a lot of control over where we played or, what we did. And so all you could do was concentrate on making yourself the best possible player you could. And then what happened past that was in the hands of the organization. Finally, in 1970, after the 76 season, is when free agency came in, where players had the option, after so many years in the big leagues, that you could become a free agent and go elsewhere, trying to find a better situation for yourself. To go from being, a team that was losing 100 to 110 games a year to actually, over probably a 5 or 6 year period, that we turned the corner and all of a sudden became a really good, all of us sort of grew up together. And I think when we moved to Oakland, our average on the field age was 22. So we had a very, very young team at the time. And so we all sort of matured together, and then, getting that first World Series was just, beyond our wildest dreams, that we actually could win a World Series. And then, good Lord bless us to win 3 in a row. People, 20 years after you retire, they're not going to remember whether you hit 270 or 290 or 320. They're going to remember if you were on a winning team. And that's stuff that they remember more than anything is what the team did than what you did as an individual. And so to me, that was, the highlight of my career, was getting into those World Series. And it was so great because all of us were together. We all started at the bottom, played A ball, double A, triple A, got to the big leagues, got our brains beat out when we were young, and finally matured. And it was the same group of guys that were there the whole time. And that, to me, was the most special part, that we got to share that journey.
And yeah, when mine was, of course, being a mom was what I set out to be, and that was probably my highlights. But the World Series, oh yeah, to finally, all those years, to actually get there and actually win. We were never favored to win, ever. We were always the underdogs, which made everybody fight harder. And so it was very gratifying and just a wonder. I told our kids, if we die tomorrow, what a ride we've had. Don't feel sad. We've had a blast.
You had a great second career too, though.
Oh,
I think going from being a mom to the success she had as a real estate agent, she made more money than I ever did playing baseball. Let's put it that way.